Everybody, it's Liberty Music Ray. Just wanted to come and make this video, kind of talk about, you know, basically just some goings on in the music industry. Just something. This is something that I've more so noticed more recently that's been happening, and it's one of those things that's very frustrating, right? Um, I'll go ahead and explain what's kind of going on. So nowadays what you're having is basically a bunch of musicians that at some point in time like the last decade or so have probably dropped a platinum hit, or whatever, and a lot of these guys, it's like they have a collection of things that they're selling all the time, like they're selling um all kinds of things, really. I mean, they're selling like hot sauce, they're selling freaking guitars, they're selling t-shirts, they're selling beer mugs, like anything and everything that you can imagine. I mean, some of these dudes even have like their own liquor collection, right? Um so here's kind of what's going on. It's like they're essentially making a plugin for artists that are producers, and then they're selling this as like a thing that they made because it's something that they use. But rarely ever have I seen anybody actually use the product that they're selling. And I say this as somebody who's like paid attention in in almost everything I've ever purchased, right? Like it's typically like I see an artist who's like, hey, we spent a long time making this thing, whatever, and you know, we think it's a good product or whatever, and then they end up releasing it, and it's like, okay, cool, but is it really made with like the fine understanding of music itself, like from a music producer, right? Not, and I mean not just one person. I'm talking about like get a bunch of people that are on board with using various DAWs and start asking questions like how does this work? Does this style work? Is this practical? Does this function work well with this? Because from what I've seen with a lot of these plugins, I get the plugin and I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's cool. And then I start using it. I'm like, man, it's just so impractical. It's just not. I just can't really think of a practical use for it in music, right? Now, some things it makes sense with, some things it doesn't. And here, let me show you this right quick. I'm going to show you this. Uh, in this video, I want you to understand. So the first block that you're seeing is without the plugin, and then the second block that you're seeing after that, that's the same color, is with the plugin. And I want you to listen, and then you can tell me what you think. And let me know what you think in the comments because I'm genuinely curious about this as well. Okay, out of those snares that you just heard, how many of those snares that you heard sounded different in the second versus the first? Me personally, maybe one, maybe two total. Like it's not as evident with that plugin using the snares. You know what I mean? Like it's very few snares that I'm actually hearing a sound difference in versus, and you'll see, we'll keep going and you'll hear more of it, but it's I would say like the thicker the bass gets, like the more noticeable it is. These are kicks, by the way. Now, I mean, out of the kicks, I would say maybe like, I don't know, um, maybe like three that were like really noticeable. You know what I mean? But that's about it. That's just my opinion. About three of them were actually noticeably different. Now, let's see about sub. We're going to do sub bass. Right. So, like, when it comes to the subs, it's like, I would say almost all of the subs were very noticeable, right? Like I listened to those and almost every single one of them I was like, okay, yeah, I can hear some difference, right? But it sounds like the bass is coming through like a glass didgeridoo and that's about it, right? Like I and this is kind of what I'm saying too is like it just doesn't really when I'm thinking about what like, here's the thing. I know people want you to think in terms of like, oh, I just bought a preset. I have to use it in a song, right? But that's not how I make music. That's the dumbest way to make music in my perspective because then what you're going to do is you're going to make an entire freaking song and you're going to find out that that plugin doesn't work the way you think it works and that there's a very technical difference in that plugin and then you're going to realize that you're going to end up having to automate the entire damn thing from beginning to end and unless you just want your song to sound like ass from beginning to end like consistent ass so uh that's just typically how music is, right? Like but what I'm saying is like there's going to be hurdles there that you're not going to understand until you get into it and then you're like, "Oh crap." Like all of this extra business is like you know, applicable to what I'm doing with this plugin. And then what so here's the thing. When I make something a lot of times like the modern producer makes things totally different than how they made things 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, you could create a MIDI rack and then you could just go into Ableton and just copy pasta a bunch of rhythms in. I've seen people do the dude, I've heard people basically remix Itsy Bitsy Spider and do it in dubstep, and it actually sounds pretty dope. But literally, it's just a copy pasta of a MIDI track, right? With like very little like changes to it whatsoever, and then they throw in just this super generic uh like MIDI rack on top of it for drums or whatever, right? And the thing that I'm gonna say is, and this is the thing that's like I find most annoying, is people are going out of their way and they're dropping these like VSTs or whatever as some sort of like, oh, you can add this on to your crappy MIDI rack and then make your music sound like different and unique and all this other stuff. And it's like, yeah, but not really. And then not only that, but if you knew how to make this sound just using generic Ableton like audio effects, it would probably be better for you as a producer than using some like automated like studio crafted crap, to be completely honest with you. Like a lot of these VSTs that are made in studios are just the worst damn thing that I can possibly imagine. Like they're not good quality. They're made from like an engineering standpoint and not a musical standpoint. And it's very clear when you start listening to it that like mechanically this was made by somebody who's like a math genius, right? But they don't understand that music isn't math, right? They think it is, but they don't understand like, and especially this becomes true in very specific genres as well. Uh, for instance, blues. Blues is very offbeat, right? Um, And that's kind of the whole purpose of blues, right? The whole purpose of blues is to like draw out that like unexpected, crazy riff that you just never even thought would exist, and then just throw that into the middle of like a saxophone line, right? Like, um, that's how the blues is, right? And I think when you're making these sorts of plugins, if your plugin doesn't apply to all genres, like you can't apply it to all genres, then it's, in my opinion, it's just not ready to be out there, especially if it's a paid plugin. Now, if it's a free plugin, then I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, just it's a free plugin, so it's not like you lost anything, other than like maybe a little time figuring out like this thing has a very specific use case, right? Um, but yeah, when it comes down to this sort of like this economy now that's being built in the music industry, is like everybody's out here just selling like their slop plugin, and it's becoming very frustrating because like if you're an artist, especially if you're an aspiring artist and you have like favorites like Virtual Riot's actually the person who made the Bismuth plugin. And nothing against Virtual Riot, right? Like I totally understand, like I get it, right? Like he's out here releasing a thing, and then I'm sure like this is part of like his merch, and like probably gets paid a sponsorship deal through, you know, whatever studio company that makes like music equipment or whatever, right? Like I get it, right? But at the same time, I'm kind of like I kind of wish this wasn't the case, because it's becoming the case with so many people. I see so many people that are just selling the same broken, like half-ass slop that just works with like a very specific use case, and then outside of that, you're just kind of screwed. Like there's no additional use that you'll be able to have with this specific VST. And then not only that, but then the worst comes into play, where it's like they're like, "Oh, do you want this extra accessibility? Well, for 9.99 and blah blah blah. Like, you can get, you know, Bismuth Chew, that works with X, Y, and Z, and we'll throw in something where like you can link it to Profab 2 or whatever, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but like not really, for especially for the modern producer, because then they're you already know what they're trying to do. They're trying to push you into buying Profab 2, right? Um, and all of these plugins are nice or whatever, but the average artist, dude, I mean, the average artist isn't out here trying to spend like $20,000 on plugins. You know what I mean? So, again, like this is like one of the big reasons why, again, I was like, oh, with my plugin, I'm not going to charge. It's just going to be free. We're going to do the Liberty Limiter 2. We're going to get it coded. We're going to get it built. We're going to get it working. And then I'm going to put it on release. And if people want to use it, use it. And honestly, I hope you do use it. And then I hope you give me some feedback and let me know like what you think, and if there's anything you want changed with it. Because this, like the plugin that I'm making, it's literally just for artists. Like it's from me to other artists, and I want it to work well with everybody, because I don't want artists feeling like they have to go to some corny like music company and spending $1,000 on a limiter that they're going to use like in 3 songs, right? And chances are, even if you do go platinum, going platinum in the revenue that you get from Spotify probably won't be enough to make back the money that you're going to spend on that limiter. Just to be completely honest with you, like the modern day artist going platinum means very little. Like you're getting paid maybe like a couple of grand in royalties like out of Spotify, and then if you get like a ton of people that like listen to your music on YouTube Music, right? I think YouTube Music's like one of the higher payers right now. Um, so if you're getting like a lot of if you're getting a lot of listens on YouTube Music, then naturally it would be like more money, but not like it would be like, so imagine you hit platinum and they're like, "Oh, here's $10,000 uh for hitting platinum." Well, the difference between platinum going platinum on Spotify versus going platinum on YouTube Music would be, instead of $10,000, you'd get about $13,000, right? So, and that's just, me using that number as like a figure. You wouldn't necessarily get $10,000. I know people that have gotten like 500K listens on Spotify, and they haven't even gone into four digits. They're still in triple digits. So, yeah, that should tell you all you need to know. Like if you're not hustling and trying to sell companies like Mega Corp slop, and you're not trying to sell hot sauce and liquor and you know whatever, uh like a beer that sells in Walmart or whatever, like you're really just not even making money at this point. Like artists make basically nothing selling uh their music. Like music in general is a poor man's game, because you're never going to make as much money as the artist with that's gone platinum. They're selling Tabasco sauce, they're selling t-shirts, they're selling jeans, they're selling, Yeti, like knockoff Yeti mugs, they're selling uh you know all sorts of things, lamps or whatever, right? Like, everybody's selling something nowadays. But yeah, that's where most of the money's coming from nowadays. It's concerts and merch. uh yeah, but in terms of like your actual music, like most artists aren't getting paid hardly anything. um I'll say this, like if you are an inspiring artist and you're specifically doing this just for the money, I'm going to tell you right now something that nobody else is going to tell you: save your time and quit, because you're never going to get rich doing this. You're never going to get rich. There's a billion people out there right now that are thinking exactly like you, and they think that if they drop a platinum single, that they're going to be rich, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. You can drop a platinum single tomorrow, and as an indie artist, and you would be lucky to make like $1,500 to $2,000, just realistically. Oh, and then if you go buy the platinum trophy, your record, it's a lot less. Like the amount of money that you're going to spend just to get that stupid trophy put on your wall is going to cost you about like half of what you would have got out of just your streams from like Spotify and all these other platforms, right? So, like I said, just keep that in mind. Like if you're not making music, like if you're going to make it because you love music. Make it because you want to make music, right? Make it because it's a song that you want to be out there, right? That's what I'll say. And if you're an indie artist and you don't plan on selling out, and you don't want to work with a record label, and you don't want to sell your soul to a mega corporation, I'm just letting you know now, you're going to be forever poor. Like you're never going to make the money. Like all these artists that, that are out there talking about how they're independent or whatever. It's like, yeah, maybe the record label you're working for is called independent, but you're not independent, right? And that's just how it is. Like there's so many people that are lying just daily about how they do business and what they do, and most of it's just to gatekeep it so that way you won't follow in their footsteps. And because they see you coming into the space is taking away from them, you know what I mean? um you know but it is what it is. Like I said, I mean, if you're here to make music and you want to make music because you love music, then I wish the best for you. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna keep making things for you guys, uh, whether it's plugins or whatever. And we're just gonna keep going. And I don't want to gatekeep anything for you. So I want the broke musician that, you know, can barely afford anything, I want to give you the best shot that you can to dropping a platinum. And then you can come on here and you can tell me how you're still broke, you know, and it was barely enough money for you to buy a brand new Kia, you know, and all that stuff, you know. But you know, at least it'll give you a shot at getting your record heard or getting your song heard, you know. And that's the most important part, I think, for most artists. Like myself, whenever I make something, I just want people to hear it. Like because I think it's cool. I think it's badass, right? Like that's where I started this whole music thing to begin with. Was like I was out on a walk and I was just thinking to myself, like, bro, I got this song in my head. It's just stuck in my head and it's on repeat. And I'm like, I just want to get it out of my head and onto something. You know what I mean? And that's how I started. I started doing all of this with AI first and foremost. And at first it kind of felt a little weird. And I was like, well, maybe I need to be doing more. Right. So, um, you know, I went out of my way and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to mix every single song, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start peppering and layering in instruments and bass lines, this, that, and whatever, you know. And that's basically what I just kept doing. I just kept going and adding more and more and more and more, to the point where I was like comfortable with releasing it and being like, well, at least I put in my fair share. You know what I mean? Um, you know, into the song. And you know, then I did a bunch of metal tracks, and then I started doing some EDM stuff again. Um, and then a lot of people came to my channel mad that I was using AI. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, that's fair enough. Like, if you don't like the AI, let's make music. Let's just make regular music. And matter of fact, here I'll put one of this. I'll put a song on right here. This is the first song I ever made. You probably heard it earlier. Um, the very beginning of the video. Let's see. There we go. This one. Boom. Right here. Let's play this one. But yeah, this song right here is the very first song I ever made without AI. And I made it from scratch using zero samples. I made everything myself from top to bottom. And if you don't know what I'm saying when I say this, I mean, this is actually one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. Because the bass, the synth, everything, it's everything, every instrument, every drum piece, everything. I made all of it from scratch. Like I went out of my way. I would get a snare and I would get multiple snare samples and then I would layer them in and EQ them, and then I would export that as a singular file, and I have multiple types of snares throughout this song. You probably, like, most people don't even hear it, right? But if you listen to this song, you'll hear it. If you really like slow it down and break it down, you'll hear there's about four different snares that I've personally taken, layered, stacked, and EQ'd, mixed. And then each one of those is an individual snare. And I did the same thing with the kicks. There's two different kicks that I've layered and EQ'd. And when it comes to the bass synth, I handmade this preset myself, and I think it's still up on Preset Share and under Vital. I think it's like, I think it's still up underneath there. I want to say, and then once I made the bass synth, then I went in and I used OTT and I used a couple other tools to EQ it and give it some thickness and, you know, give it that wub sound, you know. But yeah, this is yeah, that glitch sound. That's actually, it's funny. So that glitch sound is actually a bunch of that glitch sound is actually a bunch of other glitch sounds that are layered together, and then I EQ those together and then turned it into this thing that sounded almost one for one like like a sound effect that you would hear from like StarCraft 2 almost. Like it was very close, very, very close. And yeah, this was like three, I think it was like three other glitch sounds that I grabbed, and then I stitched them together, layered them, and I offset them a little bit. And then I went back in and then I EQ'd it and then tried to sharpen it up a little bit to give it a little of that like zippy pepper sort of like feel to it. And yeah, that's and then the fade out. Yeah. So but yeah, this song is like the first song I ever made without AI. It was all 100% done by me. And man, I'll be honest with you. This song took me a minute. It was the first song I ever did solo by myself, and I think it took me like 3 months just to make that one track. Um, and it was beyond frustrating. So, oh, there's the Halloween track there. Um, but yeah, it was beyond frustrating. I think it took me like 3 months to make that one song. So, and you have to keep in mind, like I'm doing all this stuff from home, right, on my computer, like living life and doing this and doing other things and making content, et cetera, right? Like it's not, I'm not just out here just crapping out one thing and then just like, oh yeah, there it is. This is this easy slop that I made, and I used a bunch of samples from other people that whatever, whatever, right? Like, I don't do that. I don't like that. You know, like I covered this in another video, but like if you go look up Daft Punk, like you'll see that like their biggest hits are all songs that are sampled from like people that are just nobodies, and they're literally just using that nobody's music to make music that's like a hit, and then it's like, well, what happened to that guy? Like, did you guys even pay royalties to that guy, or did you just screw him? And you're like, no, like we're not gonna pay you a penny. Thanks for the cheddar, bro. And then you just bounce out with your like robot helmets or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And this is coming from somebody, dude. I used to love Daft Punk, and matter of fact, we even went to go see Daft Punk, like they did this movie thing or whatever, where it was like all of their songs played, but like in this story format or whatever. And yeah, it's got the anime stuff and all that. And we went and we watched it, and it was decent. But the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this is incredibly ironic. Like you're telling me that some megacorp slop company came in and like forced you to make all this music, and then I'm like thinking like, cool, but you're doing the exact same thing to independent artists, right? Like you went out here and you took this dude's record. This dude's like, it was like I don't even know how you would describe it. It was like a disco mix of like disco and funk. And what was the name of the song? It's like Soda Bottle Baby, I think, or something, or Coke Bottle Baby or something. I don't remember. Anyways, you could go look it up. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And it's so stupid because it's literally just like three or four samples from that song, and it's like that's the entire song, and that's like their greatest hit of all time. And it's like you just screwed some dude by like using snippets of this song that I'm sure he spent a very long time making. You know what I mean? And I don't know why, but like I think about it in terms of Murphy's Law too, and I'm like, somebody's probably gonna do that to me one day. Like they're just gonna snippet my song and just give me the finger and give me zero credit. And you know what? It's funny. Like it probably will happen that way, but it's whatever. I'm not gonna get mad about it, right? So maybe I'll get mad about it if it's like a billion-dollar corporation that does it to me. But if it's another independent artist, at least I can understand the struggle a little bit. But anyways, well, I don't want to ramble on too long. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any ideas or want to help out with the plugin or just whatever, come swing by the GitHub. Let me know what's up. I'll leave a link in the description, and you know, if you like the video, leave a like, comment, you know, all the usual stuff. If you're not subscribed and for some reason YouTube is like throwing me a bone on this one, you know, uh, you know, drop a subscribe as well. You know, help me out, help the channel grow. Um, you know, like I said, leave a comment, leave a like. Engagement helps. So, um, you know, but yeah, I'll leave it here, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And I hope, uh, you know, I hope I'll be back and making another video next week. So, I'll see y'all then. So take it easy. Laters, everybody.